I'd like to turn the time over to Simon Benn, who is our keynote for this evening. Welcome, Simon.
Thank you so much, Krista. I'm really honoured to be here, and I want to thank everybody at Constellation and CYFD in New Mexico for inviting me to do this. It's 1:05 in the morning here in the UK, as you can tell. I've got a slightly strange accent, so hopefully everybody will be able to understand me okay with my cute little English accent. It was a problem in South Carolina. I was in South Carolina in person a couple of weeks ago, and they wanted me to say bottle of water. And when I said bottle of water, they all fell about laughing because of my pronunciation. So I'm Simon Benn. I'm approximately 6,000 miles away from you, I think. In the north of England, so I'm 200 miles north of London, near York. We just call it York. You've got New York. We've got Old York. We just call it York. I'm 56. I'm an adoptee. So I was born in Wrexham, which is in North Wales, quite near Liverpool. I was adopted out of an adoption agency in Liverpool at 5 weeks old. And my mum and dad told me so young that I can't actually remember ever not knowing. I can't remember being told. My mum tells me it was when I was 2, and they were, or shortly before I was 2, and they were going back to the same adoption agency to pick up my little sister. So we always knew that we were adopted. I felt well bonded, attached. I think is the jargon people would use. I was attached to my mum and dad, and I had a happy childhood growing up. Usual ups and downs and stuff. I did get bullied quite a lot at school and on Boy Scout camp. The usual ups and downs, I guess, that everybody goes through. And no conscious adoption trauma as a kid or growing up at all. So on the evening of my fourth birthday, no, not my fourth birthday, my 40th birthday, my mum and dad came round to pick me and my wife up, take us to a restaurant to celebrate my 40th birthday. And my mum brought a box of things that I'd left in my bedroom probably 18 years before, when I'd left the family home when I was 22. And included in that was this little fella, the teddy bear that I'd had for as long as I could remember. And so my mum left this the box of goodies, a box of old keepsakes, and the teddy bear. And later that evening, my father told my wife that the teddy bear was from my birth mother, that the teddy bear had been bought from a birth mother. And then my wife told me after my parents had dropped us off for the evening. And I was a little bit surprised about that, but curious. It was a genuine curiosity. They'd always told me that I was adopted, but hadn't told me that who'd given me this teddy bear. I was relating that story to a kind of newish friend of mine a couple of weeks later, and this time my reaction was completely different. And so it was like a volcano of anger, a volcano of anger, and these red hot molten words came out of my wife, out of my mouth. She didn't love me. She didn't love me enough to keep me. She gave me the teddy bear. It's a consolation prize. And there were some swear words which I won't, obviously I won't share with you. But these, I I'd never felt, I'd never thought those thoughts before. I'd never felt that way. I'd never really given my birth mother much thought at all. My mum and dad were my mum and dad, and that was it. But I became aware that perhaps, yeah, the volcano, the genie was out of the bottle. The volcano was in full flow, and the lady that I was talking to said to me, I'm a mum, Simon, and I don't think it was like that. And with that, the volcano just stopped. As soon as it had erupted, come from nowhere, and it stopped erupting from nowhere. Just a little bit of white smoke perhaps coming out of the top of the volcano, and a thought in my head that perhaps adoption being adopted had messed me up. So around that time, I'd taken over the family business. I'd had a tough time doing that, and not got to any real, not had a good year really in 15 years of running the family business. And I finally had a good year. I got a coach, a business coach, and I just focused my efforts. I got a little bit calmer, a bit more measured, and had a great year. And I thought that was going to stop me worrying. I thought that was going to make me happy, but it was a hollow, it was a hollow victory. The joy that I'd expected from this achievement, given I'd been working so hard for so many years to try and make it work, it was short-lived and it was nothing. So I thought, well, business success hasn't made me happy. Maybe adoption has messed me up, and that kind of set me. I had my antennae up, right? So my antennae was, where's happiness going to come from? And I started exploring this stuff. I started going on courses, and I learned a lot of things. And then on a call with one of my mentors one day, I said, well, I want your job. I want to help other people. So that set me off. I sold my old business, and eventually a roundabout way ended up here talking to you this evening. So this trauma is, some trauma is very very obvious and conscious. Some trauma we're conscious of, and some trauma is totally subconscious. And the likelihood with younger kids is that they won't really know what's going on. You know, I didn't know what was going on inside me till all this stuff coming on, and I could track back now to certain moments of anger and insecurity, and see that maybe this was down to adoption and what people call the primal wound. So this separation, the impact of the separation of a child from his mum. So over the years, I've seen that this trauma develops in layers, right? And some people have all of these layers. Some people have some of these layers. Some of the layers are thicker than others. So at the bottom, there is some people come into the world with generational trauma. So African Americans, you know, the descendants of many generations of perhaps people that were taken from Africa to work as slaves, you know, in what as part of our supposedly great British Empire. I mean, it's absolutely disgusting, isn't it? I've been on holiday many times to the Gambia, and Alex Haley, the guy who wrote Roots, which was a book and a teleseries, in the 70s about Kunta Kinte was a great grandfather of Alice Haley. So this stuff, this generational trauma, can be passed down. So other oppressed people, such as Jewish people, have the Holocaust and all this stuff. It creates a layer of generational trauma for some people. Then you've got this primal wound trauma that sits, perhaps it sits on top of that. For kids who aren't separated from their parents straight away, but suffer neglect in the family home, then you've got the trauma in the home, and some kids get trauma in their in adopted parents' home, right? And then you've got some people have the transracial adoptees will suffer trauma in that way, and they are because as adopted people, we often feel different to our parents. I didn't have that, but people do. So they feel different, and not only do they feel different, transracial adoptees look different. So this kind of exacerbates the separation between them and their adoptive parents. And then you've got things. So you've got international adoptions bring another layer of potential trauma, in the fact that the culture is different, the language is different, and all these things kind of stack up and make it tougher for kids. And the layering is perhaps I'm just setting it out like that to explain it simply, because obviously in a child, all those layers are blended up. So it becomes difficult to separate out the different parts of the trauma that the kid's going through. And this, so this trauma, obviously, if we look at it like a causal link, so we're often looking at the behavior, trauma manifesting through behavior. The behavior is driven, what we do is driven by how we feel. How we feel is driven by what we think. And a lot of the most part of what we think, the most important part of what we think, is what we think about ourselves. So there's this this low self-esteem, low self-regard, the question, what was wrong with me, or what was wrong in my family, what was wrong if kids were adopted out of or kids being fostered and removed from their family home and then put into short-term foster care, something like that. And they think, well, what's wrong with my family? What's wrong with my mum and dad? What's wrong with me? And this all kind of breeds this stuff in. So this is a very important thing to understand, that our behaviors are driven by our feelings. Our feelings are driven by our thoughts. Our thoughts are largely driven by the regard that we hold ourselves in. So I went through, I learned some stuff. My life got better. I put a lot of this kind of stuff behind me, especially the feelings of my feelings of low self-worth were largely to do with not being good enough in business and not having the success in business. And I guess, not good enough is a big heading. It can be looked at from the adoption perspective and also from the business perspective, right? And the two obviously kind of linking together. So at one stage, I started thinking, well, I needed to track my track down my birth mother. So I found out her. In fact, I did some research through an adoption support group. Did some research for me there. They can access the records. They got the name of the name of my birth mother, and also the name, my first name, which I'll go to in a little bit later. But I stopped at that point. I just had her name, Patricia Joan Flower, and my name, David Anthony Flower, and that was it, really. So I stopped the search, and then I was going through some tough stuff, and I thought, well, maybe I'll go see a therapist. So went to see spoke to a few therapists, decided to work with one. And during one of our sessions, she asked me about my search, had I reunited with my birth mother? And I said, no, I'd stopped the search. And she started asking me some questions about that. And I sitting in the chair, the idea of my birth mother popped into my head, her being outside the door of the therapy room, and me opening the door, seeing her, and her rejecting me again, somehow, a look in her face, or I'm not quite sure what went into my head, because obviously this is going into my head, and I froze solid. I froze solid with fear. Getting the same feeling now, because I'm thinking about it. My thoughts are leading to how I feel. That's the only way they come from, right? In England and in the States, we're all raised to believe that feelings come from outsiders, but feelings only ever work one way. It's feelings are an inside job. They come from us, not to us, right? So trauma doesn't know time. Trauma's got no idea what time is happening. It's happening now, in the moment, for me right now. I can feel it. Yeah. Your kids are feeling the trauma. The kids that I know you're resource parents, so some of you are foster parents, some of you are adopted parents. The trauma, the kids are reliving it. It's coming out. So I froze solid with fear, and then I went. So I was ice cold, and then I was red hot, and I'm thinking, I'm not gonna stop this. I'm not gonna let this fear blight my life. I'm gonna restart my search, because I'm not letting this fear get in my way. And so I did. I restarted my search. And about 8 months later, I got an adoption file. I got my adoption file. And in it was a letter from my birth mother to a social worker at the adoption agency. It's here, yeah. So she writes, "Dear Mrs. Bellis, thank you for everything concerning last Friday. I was going to buy a teddy bear for David Anthony, in Liverpool on Friday, but because we met a lot of traffic, I didn't have time. I thought the parents wouldn't mind if he had a little something from me, and was upset when I hadn't got him a teddy bear. Please, do you think it would be possible to buy him a little one for you to send on to him. I don't know whether this is highly irregular or not, but I would like him to have a little something from me. Also thinking that I was giving him a teddy bear and didn't do so makes me feel awful sad when I see teddies on display, as I did in Lewis's, that's a shop, department store on Saturday. Please may I send you one to give him. Sorry to trouble you. Yours faithfully, Patricia J. Flank. And as I read that letter, the tears just cascaded down my face. And they washed away the anger and the fear I had towards, like, 20 seconds of anger, 20 seconds of fear, but the most intense fear, the most intense anger I probably ever felt in my life. But they were, 20 seconds, and I'm still talking about it. But they just washed away, because I saw that my heart went out for her. I felt empathy, I felt pain, I felt her and I were one. I felt merged with her like this, yeah. And I saw how wrong I'd been about her not loving me enough to keep me. The teddy bear wasn't a consolation prize. It was a symbol of her love. So, you know, we're trauma obsessed, you know, and rightly so, you know. But I believe that we need to be trauma informed and healing obsessed. But what's healing? What's healing? Well, healing is when we have a change of heart, right? I had a change of heart about my birth mother, and that came from finding out the truth. And people say, yeah, the truth sets you free. Yeah. A change of heart. People talk about change of heart, change of mind. We have an epiphany, a big breakthrough aha moment, when a belief that we have is busted. And Bruce Perry and Oprah Winfrey have written a book. It's not what's wrong with you, it's what happened to you. And Bruce Perry talks a lot about neuroplasticity, and neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to change. So that sounds quite complicated, and brain's ability to change, but brain's ability to change, that's the powering, that's the force that drives changes in how we see ourselves, our levels of self-esteem, our levels of confidence, our levels of trauma. People say time is the greatest healer. Well, time doesn't heal anything. What heals stuff is change, a change of heart, a change of mind, an epiphany moment. And that's what we've got to do for our kids to help them heal. We've got to bring them into that space where change can happen. Now, I hear this phrase a lot, and people say, love is not enough. And I kind of know what they mean. It's the truth. It's true. Love is not enough, but it's the best place to start. It's absolutely the best place to start. You're here today because of your love for your adopted kids or the kids that you're fostering. You know, my mum and dad fostered kids before they adopted me and my little sister, and it's our unconditional love, your unconditional love, my parents' unconditional love. Bless him, my dad died 6 years and 6 days ago. Mum's still with us, still doing well, 85. Unconditional love is what drives what you do for your kids. It's what gives you the power to create change for them. It gives you your ability to not take their trauma seriously, right? Sorry, not take their trauma personally. Their trauma has got nothing to do with you. It's what's happened to them. And you know, adoptive parents, foster parents, resource parents, you can be very, very hard on yourself, right? And you're taking it all on, and give yourself a break. You know, I know you're doing so much, and I know that you're coming from unconditional love. And when people say to me, love is not enough, I think, yes, you're right, but that's not the right thing to say to parents, resource parents. Your unconditional love, that's your ninja power. That's the oomph that gets you to do stuff. And, you know, so as parents, you're as resource parents, you're leaders. And leaders lead. And I now run I launched a podcast day 2 years or so ago, and we have some people on from New Mexico, from the CYFD in New Mexico, Estella and Celestina, and my conversations with them led to this fantastic invitation to join you today, we're going to send you some links to the podcast, so you can see what they talk about in terms of kids. And there's another link we're going to send you to from a lady in Texas. She's a mum of 9 kids, and she has 3 biological kids and 6 kids through adoption. And she came up with a theme for my podcast interview with her, and it was unpacking our own baggage as adoptive parents. And what I've learned from foster and adoptive parents is that it starts with you. It starts with you, and if you can, the more grounded you can be, the more you can unpack your own emotional baggage from perhaps stuff that happened to you as you were growing up, perhaps from your parents, perhaps from, like me, being bullied. So I'd urge you, if the clearer you are, the more grounded you are, the more comfortable in your own skin, the less you've got on your emotional plate, the better place that you're going to be in to help your kids heal. And that's what it's about. Our relationship starts with us. We have to lead, right? So people I've interviewed therapists and licensed clinical social workers for the podcast, and one of them told me that parents come to her and they say, "Fix my kid," and Katie, she was called Katie Renaudot. She says, my heart sinks just a little bit there, because these kids, they're not broken. They've just been through some tough stuff, and we're all looking for those silver bullets. We're looking for the silver bullet solution, and there is only one solution to helping your kid get past their trauma, and that's try some new things, try some different modalities, talk to different therapists, try different stuff, do more of what works, do less of what doesn't work. It's a long-term game, it's not a game. Don't know why I said that. Because I know that and you're here to learn, hopefully learn something new. I'm not sure how much good a job I'm doing, but I know that you're doing with everything in your power. We've got 80 participants here, and this is a newspaper article that came out in the Sunday Times out of London last year, and this is the reason that I love the fact that you're here, right? So the headline is, "We adopted 2 boys. 8 years later, we gave one back." And this article was written by an adoptive mum, and she said that the system had failed. This is in England. When Eleanor Bradford's son started making life hell, the system failed her family miserably. Well, like that, systems are tough. Systems aren't set up to cope with this stuff. It's down to us, isn't it? It's down to us to get to the bottom and to help our kids heal. And we've got to be creative, and we've got to be resilient. We've got to. This is a paragraph that made me cry. "When the strain on our family became severe, we asked for respite care for him so we could have a break. It was declined. Instead, the children's panel said we should get family therapy. Nobody checked whether family therapy was available where we live. It wasn't." So I thought she was going to say, so we moved to a different area, or we went outside our area, we got some teletherapy. No, she gave up at that. Like, you can't give up on the kids like that, and I know you won't. But that really broke my heart. It's down to us, isn't it? I'm trying to do my bit with the podcast, coming on, doing stuff here, but and it's amazing because I'm here in Yorkshire talking to you in New Mexico, and I've had 40-odd thousand downloads of the podcast so far. 70% of them come from the US. So you guys are taking this far more seriously. 80 people have turned up. 80 of you have turned up to do this. Good on you. This is radical responsibility. We have to do what needs to be done. We have to come up with new solutions. We have to try new things. We have to do more of what works, less of what doesn't. That's the only way. And open up. Open up. You're here. You're hanging out at the bus stop for insights. get some new ideas. Hopefully the guys from England's talking some sense. I hope so. I can't see you, so I'm just keeping everything crossed, guys. I'm a little bit nervous doing it. And you know, we've all got that voice in our head that says that we can't do this. And that voice in your head that says that you can't cope and that you and I have to send them back. Failed adoption? No, you don't want that. You don't want to listen to the voice in your head. The voice in my head now is going absolute bananas, but I'm not taking any notice of it. I know it's a liar. The voice in our head that tells us that we can't do this stuff, it's a lie. It's a liar. It tells lies. Right? I've spent a lot of time trying to shut it up, right? But that fighting it, trying to get it to shut up, it's never worked. We've got to. The only thing that's worked for me is ignoring it, just carrying on regardless. You know, so it becomes so as a mentor of mine that's telling me this, it becomes it's an opinion that I no longer value. An opinion, the voice in your head becomes an opinion that you no longer value. Wouldn't that be great for you to learn that and to share that with your kids? Because it starts with us, right? we can't teach what we can't teach what we don't know. We can't share what we've not got ourselves. So it starts with us, you know. It starts with us, and understanding who we truly are. Understanding who we truly are, and identity. You know, I talked about this earlier on. This is one of the things that got me on thinking about identity in a different way. And I thought, well, the truth is always true, right? The truth never changes. My true identity never changes. And I thought, well, as you know, I've got this piece of paper, David Anthony Farr. I'm Simon Benn. Well, I can't be my name. My name's just a label. That's not me. Like you're looking at a picture and you're saying, oh, Simon. It's not Simon. It's a load of pixels on your screen. It looks like me, but it isn't who I am. It isn't truly who I am. And, you know, a lot of us get me in particular. I got confused. I thought the voice in my head was me. The voice in my head. So I thought the voice in, but then I tried to get a meeting with him. He didn't turn up. It's programming. It's what the psychologists call programming, what they call conditioning, and it's not us. It's not who we are. And you know, kids, we adults, we are not our trauma. We get confused. You know, we say, I am traumatized rather than I feel traumatized. We're not our feelings. Our feelings come and go. Our thoughts come and go. Our names change. What's it that stays the same? The essence of who we are. And I came up with this with a little bit of help from a mentor of mine called Michael Neal. I took something that he'd got and changed it to something that was kind of more useful for fostering and adoption and trauma, kids trauma. So this fist, my fist there, see it, white knuckled. My trauma first burst into my consciousness as anger. She didn't love me enough to keep me. Anger, fist, gonna do some damage. Huh? not the natural position of the fist, though. So watch this. Not the natural position of our hand. Our natural position of our hand is open. What have I got here? So it's a glass diamond. Glass diamond. So the trauma veils who we are. Now, this diamond has a value. I checked them out on Amazon in the US, about $9 you can get one of these for. If it was because it's made of glass. If it was a diamond, I guess it'd be worth millions. But your value and your kids' value is infinite. As adults, we talk about worth, but we get net worth confused with self-worth. How much money we've got in the bank confused with how infinitely valuable we are as human beings. One of the things that I've done over the last few years is I've done work in elementary schools here in the UK and in the States. I went to South Carolina. I was in South Carolina a couple of weeks ago. I did sessions with 700 kids in elementary schools. And there's a saying, I think it's from the Bible somewhere. I'm not a religious guy, but it says where there is no vision, people perish. So if we've not got a vision of the future, we die. Oh, we don't want that, do we? I've done a lot of coaching and I've done some therapy. What I loved about coaching is coaches always help me look forward. So we're putting the past behind us, moving on. And that's how we empower our kids with a vision for the future. And we get them on side. We tap into their dream, their dream for the future. So that might be just getting a class star or breaking into the little league or something what's important to your child. Tap in your children, tap into what they want, tap into their dreams. And there's just three simple processes. What's their dream? What do they need to do to make their dream come true? How do they need to be so that they do what they need to do to make their dream come true? So I'll say that again. Let's light a bonfire under some little idea they've got for the future. What's their little goal? What's their dream? What do they need to do to make their dream come true? And how do they need to be? Who do they need to be? And let's step them forward into this to move them on. And let's empower them by being the change, as Gandhi said, be the change that you want to see in the world. Let's take on new challenges ourselves. Let's learn some new stuff ourselves. We've got some resources. I've some Amazon books and that I've recommended, and I think I've also I've given Constellation a copy of a comic that I've got that it's called Jack Cherry and the Juicer, and it's all about kids' feelings. And the idea is that feelings come from thoughts, like juice comes from fruit. Feelings come from thoughts, like juice comes from fruit. So they're an inside job. They don't need to worry what other people say about them. Really big, right? kids that are different, often the targets for bullying. I got bullied badly. And I didn't know that my feelings came from my thoughts. So I let those other kids make my life a misery. And I don't want that for your kids. So that's one of the resources. Yeah. Let's be, people talk about mindset. What about mind fluid? What about being mind fluid, open to new ideas, open to change our mind, change when the world, when the way we see the world changes, the world changes. It's our vision of the future, and I think that's about time. Yeah. So thank you very much for listening. I think I kind of got into, it took me a while to get into my zone. It's 2 o'clock in the morning here, and I'm normally in bed by 10 o'clock. And I couldn't have any more coffee, else when I wouldn't be able to go to sleep. So thank you very much, and I'd love to answer any questions that you've got. Oh, sorry, I can't hear you, Trista. Sorry.
The mute button. First of all, thank you so much for not only your time, it is truly zero dark 30 where you're at. So we appreciate you. We have time for one question. There's one in the chat that I pulled out. First off, I want to thank everyone who's posted questions in the Q&A section, and for participants responding and replying. This is an amazing way to engage and collaborate with folks. But one of the questions that I pulled out, Simon, that you can, I think would be great is, and I think this goes back to the article that you were referring to, how do we gently discipline and correct in a way that doesn't add trauma or a sense of failure to a child who feels that they've been rejected by everyone?
Tricky one. I would. I think you've got a discipline in. I'm not a parenting coach, right? So, and me and my wife haven't got any kids. So, I think you know your kid best, really. I would be working on the. I would be working on the long term. I would be working on the long term stuff, and I think you need to ask the question of some other people in the cohort for that. I know I've heard a lot of stuff from resource parents about not disciplining, like letting more stuff go. How would you? Sorry, that's a. Yeah, but voice in my head's going. Simon, why can't you answer the question? I'm sorry. I think that's it's kind of off my thing. I haven't done a lot of disciplining kids. I've done a lot of inspiring of them, but not any discipline of them. I let it go. I tend to let stuff. I let stuff go. So this happened to me once in a school, actually. So the kid was one of the kids was asking and just asking silly questions, and I just kind of laughed it off, right? But I saw one of the teaching assistants just side the kid down, not actually physically, but emotionally, just like cut him dead. And I just thought, that wasn't really very emotionally intelligent, you know, like he didn't need to do, she's totally overreacting. She was totally overreacting. I was handling it. He wasn't disturbing. She had a bee in her bonnet. She's quite an older lady, so she's probably used to some sort of traditional Victorian values of Britain. And totally overreacted, and she didn't need to do it, you know, and she probably, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. A couple of the comments from our participants: be lovingly consistent and set boundaries. A lot of folks have given some amazing insight. I want to highlight, Simon mentioned a couple of recommendations. If you scroll down on your screen, below his photo, there is a section, a handout section, and I've compiled the additional links, podcasts, books that Simon recommended. So that is available for you to download. Simon, again, thank you so much for your time, your commitment to children across the globe. Very inspiring. We really appreciate you. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And, you know, like so this podcast that I've got is Thriving Adoptees. So it's inspiration, empowerment, healing, inspiration, and empowerment for adoptees. And there's a load of, some of the resources that are recommended are with interviews with New Mexico staff, CYFD staff, and this Holly Ann Petrie. She's unpacking our own baggage as adoptive parents is like just awesome, like just really brilliant stuff.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thanks again, Simon. With that, I'd like to turn the time over to Secretary B. Hill for some words.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening. My name is Barbara V. Hill. I'm Cabinet Secretary of Children, Youth, and Families Department. It is my pleasure and honor to be with you this evening and to share with you some thoughts, some ideas, and most importantly, our sincere appreciation at Children, Youth, and Families for the care that you provide our most vulnerable population. I know this work isn't easy, or perhaps it's not work. It must be a labor of love for many of you to take into your homes, into your lives, children that need the support, the love, the care, the foundation to become healthy adults. And so this is thankless work, we understand. And what I want to share with you is my commitment, our commitment at the department to really strengthen the support that we can provide you as resource parents. What does that mean? Well, first and foremost, I appreciate you being here and engaging in the interesting topics that will be presented to you over the next several weeks. Topics that we hope are interesting and that you will learn from and that you will take into your homes in the care of the children that are in your homes. But more importantly, I want to share with you that we are very committed to really strengthening the training, to providing it throughout the year, to providing mentorships and information that will enable you to serve and care for the children in your homes. This will take a bit of time, and yet there are issues that we're learning about that we can address quite quickly to enable you to do this service for our children and do it well and do it better. Let me explain what that means. In our efforts to rebuild Children, Youth, and Families Department, we are conducting roundtables around New Mexico. In fact, today we had a roundtable of treatment providers as well as resource parents in Albuquerque. Now, we hope to have these roundtable discussions throughout New Mexico, and we'll be doing them regionally. So perhaps we might go down to Las Cruces or Silver City or Roswell, maybe up to Taos and Farmington and other regions around the state, and you will be invited. You will be invited to share, to come, and to present to you your thoughts, your ideas. What is working well in your relationship with children, youth, and families, and what are your frustrations? And what do you need so we can serve you better, so you can serve our children better? And so we look forward to, in the coming months, to inviting you to these, what we're calling rebuilding roundtables discussions. And so people look out in your emails. Hopefully it won't go to your junk email, but we'll be following through with you around New Mexico and inviting you to these roundtables. Once we listen and hear from you, both your frustrations, your challenges, and your suggested solutions to how we can make your service as a resource parent that much better, we will come back and implement those things that we can implement quickly and take under advisement and work hard in implementing those solutions that may take a little longer. So the bottom line is, we want to serve you. We want to make your service as a resource parent the best it can be in the country. And we don't ever want to be a hindrance and to have issues with respect to what you need to care for the children in your home. I can't express enough my sincere gratitude and appreciation for the sacrifice, the willingness to provide that safety and well-being for our most vulnerable children. Thank you very, very, very much from Children, Youth, and Families for all you do. And we look forward to having a deeper conversation about how we can serve you better by Children, Youth, and Families, and the work that you do and the service you provide to our vulnerable children. So thank you very much. Enjoy the conference. I look forward to hearing from you in the coming months of ideas, suggestions on how we can strengthen our relationship for our families and our children. Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, Secretary Vigil. We really appreciate you taking time to visit with us this evening. Up next, we have, to close us out, is we're thrilled to have Aisha Sundram lead our activity, Cultivating Seeds of Resilience, Tools for Self-Resourcing. Aisha, we'll turn the time over to you. Just let us know when you want us to forward the slides.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. I'm excited to be here with everybody and talk about something that I'm really passionate about, which is self-resourcing and self-care for parents. And today what I'm doing is experiential. So it means that rather than talking to you about self-care for a long time, I'm going to actually guide you through several things. And my hope in doing that was that, I don't know about you, but at the end of the day, I'm generally fairly checked out and not able to take in a whole bunch of new information like with my thinking brain, but need some time to kind of ground. And I learn through doing things. So what I have prepared for us today is just some experiences to go through that hopefully you can take with you and use in your life. And we'll have time at the end for questions and comments as well, assuming that I figure out how to do that. I'm used to being able to see people's faces, so pardon my learning curve as I learn how to interact in this new way. So we can start with the introduction slide. So my name is Aisha. I use they, them pronouns. I am a parent to a brilliant and beautiful neurodivergent 7-year-old. I'm also a clinical social worker, and I've been working with attachment, trauma, and parenting for the past 11 years in my clinical practice. I work extensively with youth and foster care and resource foster and adoptive parents, and I've got great admiration for everybody involved in this equation, including all of the CYFD workers who are here. So my goal for today is to just share tools that will be immediately helpful to you and to provide seeds for ongoing growth with your self-care and self-resourcing practices. And to that end, we're going to start with a guided meditation, which is the next slide. So settle into a comfortable position. You can be seated, lying down, or standing. I invite you to close your eyes if that feels comfortable to you. And start by taking a few deep breaths. And I'm going to take one right now. So just take a moment and assess how you're doing in this very moment in your body. Briefly scan your body from head to toe, noting any places that feel especially tense, might be achy or painful, and any places that feel neutral or even relaxed. Send care to any places where you note tension or discomfort, and send appreciation to areas that feel neutral or even good. Our bodies support our activity all day, every day, and we rarely thank them for it. Recognize your body in this moment for all that it holds for you. With your next deep breath, see if you can breathe out any places of tension. I'm going to guide you through a short visualization that I wrote primarily for resource parents. If you're not a resource parent, just replace any words that don't fit with a person or relationship that makes sense to you. So start by imagining one or more of the children you are currently a resource parent to, or you've been a resource parent to in the past. Let yourself see them in your mind's eye as they are when they are relaxed or at peace. Notice the feeling in your heart and your body as you connect to their spirit in this moment. Note any points of tension or expansion, and just send kindness and compassion to whatever you observe. Now, imagine yourself standing next to this child, feeling full of the care, grounding, stability, love, compassion, and empathy that you need to be the resource parent that you want to be to them. This might feel like a stretch, and that's okay. Just see if you can lean into how you would like to show up to this role in their life, what you know they need from you, and how you would like to feel in order to be able to offer it. Now I want you to think about, in a perfect world, who and what you would both have around you in order for this to be so. What kind of physical environment do you imagine? What important people and other beings, animal or plant or otherwise, would surround you? Imagine this in as much detail as you can. Notice what it's like to see the support both of you need and deserve. Take a moment and also notice how it impacts your body and your breath to visualize this kind of support. If it feels right to you, put a hand on your heart or clasp your hands. Visualize sending yourself the experience of this kind of expansive support and breathe into it. We'll take a moment just to let that experience set in. And I'm not exactly sure, I think I can see it on my phone, but if you can put a word or two into the chat about how you're feeling at the conclusion of this, that would be great. Somewhat for me, but also just for all of you to kind of be in interaction with each other as we're going through the presentation today. And let me see if I can actually see that. Calm, okay, cool. That's what I was hoping for. So I guess we'll start out by talking about this phrase, self-resourcing, which guess what, we just did a version of it. And I'm sure you guys have all heard this overused adage that you can't pour from an empty cup. So self-resourcing is just the act of filling your cup back up. And it is a continual process. We're always also sharing our resources with our children and others in our lives. So self-resourcing is taking the time to make sure that we have our basic emotional needs met so that we're able to show up to support the young people in our lives with their needs. And I do want to be super clear here that we are not self-sufficient islands, and it's healthy and really necessary to rely on other people for some of our emotional needs. What self-resourcing is that idea that we can trust ourselves to prioritize our needs. Often as caregivers, we're relying on like the leftover scraps of our attention to address our needs. And I'm here to encourage you to know that when you create the time and space and attention for your own emotional well-being, it will increase what you have available to care for other people. And self-resourcing can be as small of an act as taking an extra 3 minutes in the car to soak in that silence and center yourself before getting out to pick up your child. It doesn't have to cost money or a lot of time, although those things definitely make it a little bit easier. We can go to the next slide. So next, we're going to take a moment to touch on the idea of self-regulation. Self-regulation is the ability to understand and manage your behavior and your reactions to feelings and things happening around you. By the time we're adults, we've hopefully learned a lot of different strategies for self-regulation. It's critical in parenting, and particularly in parenting kids with trauma, because when we're not regulated, we're much less able to parent from a place of love and compassion. And today I'll be taking you through 2 of my most used strategies for in-the-moment self-regulation. And next slide. So why is self-resourcing so important for resource parents? I'm probably preaching to the choir here, and Simon spoke to this as well. Children who have been removed from their homes or taken from their families are traumatized, and that deeply impacts their nervous systems. They've learned many strategies to survive and feel safe, and are often hyper-attuned to the emotional and physical state of their caregivers. And Simon kind of spoke to that more beautifully than I possibly could, to that really intense trauma being separated from your people. And sometimes before you even have the words to say or know what's happening. So as resource parents, you're asked to provide a sense of safety at a chaotic moment in a child's life. This is a tremendously tender place to form connection, and it often takes time and testing for there to be trust. Your ability to tend to your own nervous system is critical in showing up for the children that enter your lives, and you can't do this alone. In addition to some of the strategies we'll talk about today, you also need support. It's its own whole topic, but I wanted to acknowledge it. And I invite you to use the chat to connect around what I'm sharing. I think undoing the aloneness around experiences is healing in its own right. So as much as it feels right to you, definitely, I can't actually see it super easily without getting really distracted, but I invite you to engage with each other as we go through some of these exercises. I'm ready for it. Okay, good. So next we're going to be doing a little journaling activity. So if you can grab something to write with and something to write on, and it's fine if you write on a computer or something. Give you a second, but yes, so here are the questions. So we're going to take some time to take inventory around your current self-care practices and explore what helps you feel safe, secure, and resourced. And what we do together today will hopefully be the seeds of something that you return to and tend to in the days to come. And so what I'm going to do, I know nobody wants homework, so I'm going to try to leave questions or leave some time after each of the questions for you to actually write right now. And I'm going to kind of jot some notes so I have a sense of how much time it might take. And then you can come back to this if you have a question that you really want to write more about. So we'll start with, on a scale of 1 to 10, how strong are your regular self-care practices right now? What's going well, and what's the most in need of attention? So just take a moment, write down a number, and then anything you think you're doing great with, and any place that you're like, oh no, that's on fire. I'm doing my own little parenting self-assessment right now. And for the next question, think about some things that make you feel safe or secure. It can be a physical place, an activity, a person, an animal. Why do these things make you feel safe and secure? So again, just take a moment, you can list them, and then think about why. For the next question, when you feel overwhelmed or stressed, what are some resources that you turn to for support? Do you have any coping mechanisms that help you feel grounded and centered? So again, making a little list. And then if you have coping mechanisms, list them. And these are ones that probably would be super helpful if you have ones that you feel good about to share in the chat so other people can see them. If somebody else is like, I have none of them, I don't know what to do. The next question is, what are some things that bring you joy and make you feel happy? It can be anything from spending time with loved ones to pursuing a hobby. And then think about, how does pursuing these things contribute to your overall well-being? And again, these might be great to share with other people if you have ones that might be helpful for other people to know. Next, think about if there's any self-care practices that you found helpful in the past. So this could be anything from yoga to journaling, taking a warm bath, going for a walk. Think about how have these practices helped you feel more grounded and connected to yourself. And again, this is a list you can come back to. Definitely a list to share with the folks in the chat if you have some great ideas. And finally, you can reflect on a time that you felt really supported and cared for. Think about, what was it about that experience that made you feel so supported? And what can you learn from that experience to help you feel more supported in the future? So again, this is hopefully just the start of something that you can return to. I think you'll get these slides so you can come back to the questions if they're thought-provoking. And if there's anything that you want to share with other folks in the chat. It's super helpful. I think this is probably one of the areas where I hear most often from parents in my practice that they don't feel like they have a good self-care practice. And it's hard to think of things that they can actually do. And for a lot of busy parents, things like taking a long, luxurious bath or going to get a manicure aren't really things that you can work into your life on a regular basis. So finding those things that actually you can do is super important. For me, one of my most regular self-care things, it's so basic, but it's just like making myself a cup of really good coffee in the morning and like putting it in a mug that keeps it hot so that at some point in the morning, there's a sip of really good hot coffee. So if anything stood out to you as you engage in this exercise, again, feel free to put it in the chat. And we are going to move on to the next guided practice, which is self-compassion. We're going to kind of shift gears. It's the one before, actually. So self-compassion is one of the most powerful parenting tools that we have at our disposal. And the magic of this practice is that it makes room for increased compassion in your parenting. So like the care you give yourself actually makes you have more room as a parent to be really spacious with your little one. And often when we struggle to be generous or flexible with ourselves, it translates into difficulty being generous or flexible with other people. When we have a loving and compassionate relationship and inner dialogue with ourselves, it ripples out to how we treat other people. So we're going to begin by finding a comfortable position. And again, take a few deep breaths and hopefully you're already feeling more relaxed, but see if you can even take another breath into being just a bit more relaxed and present. And now we're going to bring to mind a challenging situation you've experienced as a resource parent. So maybe a moment where you felt overwhelmed, frustrated, or disappointed in yourself. Just take a second and find that situation. And as you focus on the situation, just notice any negative thoughts or emotions that come up. It's okay to feel them, acknowledge them, but try not to dwell on them. And now, offer yourself some words of kindness and support. Imagine yourself as a loving parent or friend who cares about you deeply. Try saying to yourself, and as you do this more and more, you'll find your own voice or script in this, but may I be kind and gentle with myself. May I be patient with my own limitations and mistakes. May I trust my own intuition and wisdom. May I be forgiving of myself when I make mistakes. May I take care of myself in the midst of challenges. Repeat these phrases to yourself, imagining that you're sending yourself love and compassion. If it's helpful, you can place your hand on your heart as you do this to create a physical connection to the feeling of self-compassion. Take a few more deep breaths and imagine yourself surrounded by warmth and kindness. Imagine that you're being held in a loving embrace by someone who cares about you deeply. When you're ready, take one more deep breath and open your eyes. Take a moment to notice how you feel after practicing this exercise. Remember that self-compassion is an ongoing practice, and it's okay if it doesn't come naturally at first. But if you do this over and over, I promise you'll actually get a lot more capable of coming here first. So if you tend to be someone who beats up on yourself, this will be more available to you the more that you practice it. And I do this at the end of my days. If there's been a hot spot at my parenting, I usually will sit with it in this way. And often that also results in me having more space to feel a lot of compassion for my kid. So we're going to move on to the next one, which is a sensory scan. And again, I'm kind of guiding you through these because I think it's easier to get a sense of how something works by doing it rather than me describing it. So we're going through these things, and then these are things that you can return to. So this is called a sensory scan. There's a few different ways you can do it. I'm going to guide you through a slightly longer one and then tell you about a short, like kind of in the moment. And this is like either one you can do with a kid, but the shorter one is really good to do when you and a child that you're caring for are also dysregulated. So you can guide yourself and a child through this at the same time, especially if you're early in an escalation, and it can help both of you reset. So ideally, you get to do this in a comfortable position. If you're in the middle of starting something with a child that you're caring for, then you just do it wherever you are. You might say put both feet on the ground, or like let's both sit on the couch, but you can use it however it works for you. So allow yourself to become present in this moment, letting go of any thoughts or distractions. Start by focusing on your sense of sight. Open your eyes and look around you, taking in your surroundings. Notice the colors, shapes, and textures around you. Take a moment to appreciate any details you may not have noticed before. Next, bring your attention to your sense of hearing. Listen carefully to the sounds around you. Notice any sounds that are near, far, loud, or quiet. Try to let go of any judgments or reactions you may have to these sounds and simply observe them. Now, focus on your sense of touch. Pay attention to the sensation of your clothing against your skin, the feeling of the air on your skin, and any other physical sensations you may be experiencing. Notice the temperature, texture, and weight of the objects around you. Move on to your sense of smell. Take a deep breath and notice any scents in the air around you. Try to identify specific smells if you can. Hopefully they're positive smells and not ones that you're kind of like, oh, and appreciate the variety of scents that surround us every day. And finally, focus on your sense of taste. If you have something to eat or drink, take a moment to savor the flavors and textures. If I'm doing this with a kid, and often when I was working with kids in residential or at a school, I would carry gum and mints and have them pop a piece of gum or a mint in to kind of both increase their mindfulness and then shift their attention. Pay attention to the different sensations in your mouth and how the tastes and textures change as you eat or drink. Take a few deep breaths and bring your attention back to the present moment. Take a moment to appreciate the diversity of experiences we have through our senses every day. So this is primarily a mindfulness and grounding tool. You can use it anytime that you need to come back to the present moment. The quick version that I teach for kids uses the hand as a cue. And so you name 5 things you can hear, 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can touch, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. You can go through this multiple times with yourself or with a child, and it does kind of help just bring them down, because when you're using the noticing part of your brain, it actually helps regulate your nervous system. You can also make a little sensory survival kit for yourself that has like a rock in it. Like I usually have a crystal, essential oils, gum, a calming playlist, or a photo. You can make one for you. You can make one for a little person that you're taking care of. But I find this to be super helpful. I use it pretty often. And the final practice is a really quick one. It's called the helping hand. And I have, well, I will probably send it out with a handout, but it's a really goofy little drawing of a hand. But the cue is touch your hand, touch your thumb and pause. Touch your index finger, breathe. Touch your middle finger, name the feeling that you're feeling. Touch your ring finger, notice where you're feeling it in your body. And touch your pinky, let the feeling pass. That one's like, the super hard one, but again, you can do this more than one time. It's really useful to address overwhelm or the moments where you know that you're not grounded and you're not really sure why, or just needing to feel more self-connected. Okay, and then I think I'm ready for the final slide. So this is my little preachy pulpit moment, which is self-care is like this ongoing relationship with yourself, and it's not a single event. Like you can't schedule it and be like, I did my self-care from 10 to 10:30, so I'm good. But I do want to make space for this common question or concern that I face in my own life as a parent, and then I often hear it from friends and clients. How do I make time and space for self-care when I feel like I'm always in charge of taking care of somebody else? And I feel it's really important to hold because the systems that we are a part of do not prioritize our well-being. And they don't really prioritize children's well-being. And so many of us are chronically way too busy to feel that we're able to take a time out and tend to ourselves. So to that piece, we need the systems to change. And again, that's a talk for another day, but it feels important to just acknowledge that reality. But today I'm hoping that we got a chance to see that self-care can be as quick and simple as taking a moment to check in with yourself and notice how you're doing. And what I hope to bring to our awareness is the understanding that how we relate to ourselves profoundly impacts how we're able to relate to others. And as resource parents especially, prioritizing and attending to your own emotional well-being will allow you to show up as that loving, resilient being that the young people in your lives so dearly need. If we have any extra time, I wanted to make some space for questions. I'm not sure where we are with timing.
So people have been giving a tremendous amount of feedback in the chat, just affirming and acknowledging what you've shared. I haven't seen a specific question, and we are running a little bit over, but you do have time in the chat to kind of take a look at some of the comments that our participants have given. I think very helpful as we're looking in there. Wow, great thoughts and skills to care better for ourselves and others. From Elizabeth. Aisha, I love that you acknowledged that, because oftentimes it feels hard to squeeze in time for ourselves without feeling guilty, and we shouldn't have to feel guilty for taking care of ourselves as well. So I think some excellent learning from your session. So thank you so much for that. We are at time. We're a little bit over. Thank you everyone for staying on. As a reminder, we appreciate if you take a few moments to complete our session feedback. And for those of you who would like to receive a certificate of completion for this session, please keep an eye out for an email with a link to request your certificate. Remember that certificates of completion should be available to you within the next week. And thank you to all of you for joining us today. Note that a recording of the session will be posted soon, and we look forward to seeing you back next week. We have Adrian Lawyer with the Transgender Resource Center and Joy Weathers from CYFD, who will be talking about the family teaming model. So with that, have an amazing evening. Thank you.